Hi, welcome to Rock and Metal Invasion. My name is Steve. Coming up on the show today, I'm doing hair metal, or should it be called haired rock? Does hair metal need a new name, and if so, what is it? To help me answer this question, I've invited back my twin brother, Simon, to the show. How's it going, Simon?
Pretty good, as long as I'm not playing any Winger videos.
No, not today. Now, I know you're not the biggest Winger fan. For those who don't know, Simon last appeared on Rock and Metal Invasion to do a reaction video to a Winger music video. But actually, Winger is a good example of the type of band that gets put in the hair metal category when perhaps they should be put in into a different category or genre. I know for myself, I think of them more as a hard rock band. What about you, Simon? Any suggestions for a genre or category you could put Winger in rather than hair metal?
Yeah, I got a category, the shit category.
Okay, well, that's not helpful. Now, I'm not saying we couldn't create a category for this type of music, but first, how about we look at some genres or categories that already exist that might work for a band like Winger?
Listen, I didn't come to your show, Steve, to talk about Winger again. Mention Winger one more time, I'm leaving.
Okay, chill out. I won't mention Winger again.
You just did. Your show sucks. I'm out.
Alright, looks like I'm doing it by myself, which is, probably for the best, to be honest with you. Alright, so what I wanted to talk about today was basically an alternative name for hair metal. So it is a name or a term or a genre, whatever you want to call it. I don't call it a genre, but I do call it a category or a term to describe the type of music that happened at a certain time. But it is a term that some people are really negative about. Some people have totally embraced it, and some people now, they're proud to say, "Hey, I love hair metal," and that's great. That's cool. I mean, what I was wondering though, and this whole idea came about because in my last episode, I did 10 great female-fronted hard rock metal music videos, but I misspelt the hard rock part. And if you look at the thumbnail of the video, I've corrected the thumbnail since then, but originally, if it's still there on the video, I spelled hard rock, HAIRD, so it was haired rock. And Dan from Off the Charts mentioned to me, haired rock? Is that like a mixture of hard rock and hair metal? I was like, this is a funny joke. But then I actually got to think about it, and I thought, actually, haired rock, maybe that would actually be a better way to describe this type of music. Because I think one of the problems with hair metal, calling it hair metal, is it does have that word metal in it. And, back in the 80s, a lot of these hair metal bands, of course, hair metal really as a term didn't exist at the time, but they were in the heavy metal magazines, and a lot of the bands would call themselves a heavy metal band. A lot wouldn't, but they'd still be put in the heavy metal category. A lot of bands were like, no, we're not heavy metal, we're just rock and roll, we're hard rock, we're blues, or whatever. A lot of bands didn't necessarily want the heavy metal tag. But it got me thinking, haired rock's perhaps a better description now, right? It's sort of like a nice combination of hard rock, because most of these bands are more hard rock than heavy metal. Hard rock, but with the I in there to make it haired rock. I don't know. Probably not something that's going to catch on. I totally, in fact, it shouldn't. But I thought that was kind of funny. And I mean, and so then I thought, well, maybe I could do a show about some alternative names. But, the problem is it's, really doesn't need an alternative name now. I think the term hair metal now is not a negative. In fact, I've originally, when I started doing this show, on my channel, I hardly ever used the term hair metal, and I certainly hardly ever had it in the titles of my show or my episodes. I just usually say hard rock or heavy metal. But 4 of my last 8 shows, this will be the fourth. 4 of the last 8 shows have had hair metal in the title. And when I think about the last one, where I called it 10 great female-fronted hard rock / metal music videos, I was very tempted to say hair metal, female-fronted hair metal music videos, but I'd already sort of done that one, and also I had felt like, well, maybe a couple of the bands aren't quite in the hair metal, don't quite fit that hair metal category. But anyway, yeah, so I just think I've embraced it a lot more now than what I used to, because I think other people have as well. I definitely would. I'm never saying it in a negative way. I remember though, you would sometimes hear people say things like, "Oh, I hate that hair metal crap," but then then they'll follow that up with, but I like Guns N' Roses and Skid Row." It's like, well, that is hair metal. But anyway, and I think as well, there are some hair metal bands who perhaps give hair metal a bad name, but that's like any term or any genre. There's good bands and there's some not so good bands. I'm not going to start naming names. Maybe that's a future show. You give hair metal a bad name. I don't know, but not for today. Now, one thing though too, I remember in the mid-90s, there was, some people might think, well, there was no hair metal in the mid-90s. Well, that's not true. There was some, but there was very little. And I think one of the reasons is because by the mid-90s, the term hair metal did exist. Okay, people were using that term, not as much as maybe they are now, but it was being used, but it was being used in a really negative way. And because of that, a lot of bands didn't want to have any sort of association with hair metal if they could help it. But yeah, like I say, now it's a lot more positive. So just for fun though, if we were going to think about changing the name, or even for me on my channel, if I was going to use something different, what could I use? Well, I don't really use glam metal is quite a popular one. I don't really use that very much, but that's a popular alternative that some people prefer. You've got other things like cock rock, 80s rock, melodic metal I've used from time to time, because some of those hair metal bands are very close to heavy metal, but you're kind of going, well, then it's a little bit heavier than your normal hair metal. So maybe you could say melodic metal. Sleaze metal, that's another popular one as well. But at the end of the day, all these are just terms. They're not genres. Remember, hair metal, as far as I'm concerned, is not a musical genre, but it is just a way to describe a type of music that happened at a particular time. So listen, I mean, for me, I'm not going to not use hair metal again. I'm probably not going to start using hard rock either, but sometimes I'll say hair metal, sometimes I'll say hard rock, heavy metal from the 80s metal. Sometimes I'll use melodic metal. Sometimes I'll use AOR, hard rock, whatever. I think anyone who watches my channel knows the bands I cover. They know what I'm talking about. All right, well, that's just a quick little video. Like I said, I was hoping to have Simon here to have a bit of a discussion with him, but we saw how that turned out. If you like this video, make sure you have subscribed and hit the thumbs up. And let me know about any other alternative names for hair metal. Should it have an alternative name, or should we just stick with it now that people have started to embrace it? All right, let me know in the comments, and I'll catch you later. All right, see ya.